Hi, this is Joshua Kulp for Daf Shevui. We are on Daf Mem Bet, page 42 of Masechet Avodah Zarah. And I want to offer a couple of reflections on some of the topics that are occurring here on pages 41 and particularly in 42. They're topics that we're going to encounter throughout the rest of this chapter. And then talk about the nature of this long sugya that dominates most of this daf. So the first thing I want to talk about is the notion of bitul avodah zarah, the annulment of an idol. And I want us to appreciate just how revolutionary this idea really is. When we open the Torah, we see there that the attitude towards idols and idolaters is one of mandated destruction. The Torah, especially the book of Deuteronomy, says all of the time, repeatedly, that Israelites, when they come into the land of Canaan, they are to wipe out the nations that live there and to physically destroy, smash, obliterate all of the idols and the idolatrous places that the idolaters have engaged with in the land of Israel. And that is kind of the simple meaning of the Tanakh. What is this mission of monotheism, or at least soul dedication to our particular God? The mission is to go and wipe out the idolaters that are living in the land of Israel and to wipe out the physical signs of idolatry, to obliterate them in a very physical way. I don't like to compare the Torah to systems and to some of the ways that we find abhorrent in our own time, but you don't have to go back more than a few years to find the Taliban doing exactly that to archaeological sites and symbols of other religions that they perceive to be idolatrous. We all probably remember they're blowing up the giant Buddhas in the Middle East and some of the other archaeological sites. Again, we Jews don't do this anymore, and I'll come back to that in a second. But that is a very literal interpretation of Scripture, that radical monotheists, should go out and obliterate idols. In rabbinic literature, we really find very little emphasis on the physical destruction of idols. What we find in place is this kavanah, this mental annulment of the value of the idol, which turns the rock or stone or wood or whatever image was created by an idolater from a piece of from something that they have invested with sanctity to something that's just a piece of rock or wood or stones. It is a radical transformation of the laws of obliterating idolatry or idolatrous places from the Tanakh. In other words, for the rabbis, the Jew, or more particularly the idolater, doesn't have to destroy the idol. All that has to happen is for him to deny the sanctity. And that allows that particular piece of equipment, piece of whatever the material is made of, to be used by a Jew. It transforms something from a holy object in the eyes of the idolater to something that is devoid of any sanctity. And that's a real radical transformation that the Talmud doesn't really even talk about in that term. It just sort of accepts it as if it's muvan me'elav, understood on its own, fully accepted, without any need for explanation, that is a process of desacralization of idols. Now, as far as the sugya that we are learning, this is really a classic passage, one of the sugyot that I would consider one of the greatest hits of the Talmud. By that I mean this classic structure of a dispute between two Amoraim, in this case Reish Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan, and then consistent over and over and over difficulties raised by one party on the other that are always solved until the sugya just ends. The particular dispute, I think, is one of great interest, and really they're asking, what does that mean, annulment of an idol? Is it something that has to have intent, or can it happen just in a physical way? All right, again, there's that tension between the physical destruction of the idol that we read about in the Torah and this mental annulment that the rabbis are advocating and believe in. And what happens when you go all the way, when you have no mental annulment? All you have is some kind of physical deterioration. The idol broke on its own. It fell off a shelf. Somebody tripped over it. There was an earthquake. An animal came and destroyed it or knocked it off. Somehow, somebody who has no connection, or in something that has no connection to the holiness of the idol, caused it to be destroyed. Does that physical destruction that the Torah advocates also have to have a component, a mental component that the rabbis advocate? And it is a beautifully structured sugya. By that I mean that it goes on and on with kushya, teirutz, question, resolution. I hope you enjoy the aesthetics of it. And it really brings us to many of the important sources, the Mishnayot, the Braitot, that deal with this concept of how exactly is an idol annulled. I think it's under its surface, this is a fascinating chapter because it really talks about a revolution in belief in idolatry, a real difference between the perceptions of idolatry that are there in the Torah and perceptions of idolatry that are there for the rabbis. So try to think about those kinds of things, and I hope we'll have an occasion to return to them in future videos. Meanwhile, good luck, and as always, please make some comments on our Facebook Daf Shevui page.